Hi, I'm Dr. Keith Chan, and this is a tutorial about how to bake some cool lighting effects onto a lower poly model. So we're going to work with my Neanderthal model here. It is for the Virtual Museum Anthropometron. Link is in the description. And it's a VR museum, so lower polygon counts are a must. I can't go hog wild with the polys. But when I do that, when I go lower poly, the lighting effects that I want to bake don't look so good, like the back of the neck here. So I'll show a way where you can use a subdivided model to take the shading from that and paint it onto the texture for this model. So to get started, you see up in the upper right corner, like your screencast keys are on, okay? These are all the things that are going to be part of this model. So I'll just shift click to get them all. And I'm going to shift D, don't touch the mouse, press enter to duplicate everything. Now the duplicates at 0.001 on each of them. So there's a rig for this model. So for the one that we're going to export into VR, we don't want the rig still there. So for each of the 0.001 models, I'm going to get rid of that parenting to the rig. So for each one, I go to Alt-P, clear and keep transformation. Probably is a batch way to do this, but I like this meditative, repetitive work. Okay, Alt-P, clear and keep transformation. All right, and for my model, the main Neanderthal body has an armature with it, so we're going to apply that. Now for the 0.001 duplicates, we're going to select them all and join them together with Control J. I'm going to rename this one Neanderthal.baked. Now we're going to move this away from the other models so we can hide and show different things with more ease. All right, so now we have the .baked, which is what we're going to paint the textures on. We have the original, which we're going to now subdivide. I'll show you the difference in lighting between the unsubdivided and subdivided. So looking at the bad neck there, it is partially due to my modeling, so you can fix this other ways, but we're going to do it this way. We're going to add a modifier, subdivision surface. And see, there's no change because I'm actually showing the .baked model. So I'm going to hide that. But, so this looks a lot better. This is the subdivided model. So it's given it more poly, smooth out the weirdness that the lower poly version had in regards to lighting and shading. So we're going to bake this niceness onto the other model. To do that, we're going to need a texture file. So we're going to go down to the lower left, image, new. I'm going to call this Neanderthal.text 1024 or 1024. Let's uncheck alpha. We don't need it. Click OK. And we save this image file so we don't lose our hard work. PNG. And good. Now we're going to tell Blender to use that file to bake upon. To do that, we go to the bottom part of the window here. Go to Add, find image texture, and then pick the one we just made, which is Neanderthal.text or texture. Make sure each material that you'll be baking off of has that. So I'm going to copy that box. And I know Spear Point had its own material, so we're going to paste it in there. Make sure that's there. Now I'm going to select everything that I will be baking from. Go to the render properties. Make sure cycles is the engine, otherwise baking doesn't work. Make sure GPU is selected if you have one, so it's using its power. Ooh, power. I don't know what that was. And one thing, this might be a Blender 3 thing, but make sure the denoise for render is unchecked. If it's checked, it makes the bake texture look not usable. Actually gives a nice zombie stitching appearance, but that's not our goal here. So denoise off. Okay, scroll down to the bake section. Settings look good. I know my model doesn't emit, so I just uncheck that to save my computer a little time. We're not going to clear image. And with that selected, we're just going to hit bake, cross our fingers. Okay, you didn't cross your fingers because it's not working right. Mine were definitely crossed. So you see it's baking much darker than what it should be, which is we're seeing what it should be baking, but the texture is coming out with all these black spots. This will probably happen to you because it happens to be 90% of the time I set up a bake. I always forget this step. What happened is the model .bakes, even though it's hidden, it's still part of the rendering process. You see the camera in the far right here is selected on. That means even though it's invisible to us, it will still be used in any rendering processes like baking. To get rid of that, make sure that you go to the filters and the camera is a possibility. I've already done that before. And then you uncheck that camera. So now it's truly invisible to human and machine eyes. And we'll do this again. Select through all the models we're going to be baking from. Make sure the texture image box is selected. And cross our fingers again. Do it. Cross our fingers. Okay, here we go. Yes, that looks a lot more like what we expected. It's going through all the little models. All right, so it has finished. So we can go to image here. The asterisk means it hasn't been saved yet. We're going to save it. And just to test out this texture, I'm going to hide the original model parts, hide the rig as well. Reveal the .baked version. And this is the old, this is not using the texture file yet. We're going to make it use a new material that uses the texture file. So to do that, I already have one set up, but we should do this from scratch. So go to materials. I'm going to make a new material. And then you can edit it down here. The big thing that changes here to the right, surface principled BSDF. We don't want that. We want background. So background is a very plain shader. It doesn't have all the cool effects because we don't need them. We baked all the cool effects into an image file. So once that's there, you connect the texture file to the background, and there it is. So this is not using real lighting. I can show you by turning off the real lighting, but this is the painted texture. So it looks pretty cool. Look at a little crack there. I think YouTube would appreciate that. There are some things like these spots. You can see those here. That it's just from the baking process that with shaded areas, it comes with spotted pattern texture thing. And there's different ways to fix that. You can bump up the number of samples, but one way I like is to run it through a denoise filter at this point, not during the bake, but here after the bake. So this is from the Mozilla Hubs people that I first learned this from. You go to the compositing workspace up here, click use nodes. So you're using nodes. And then you add these parts. You add an image, which will be the texture file. Then you add denoise. Then you add viewer. And so you stick all these together in the order we put them down in. And it's going to run through a denoising algorithm, and then in the background there actually shows you the result. So from there, you go back to the shading workspace. That's where we were to bake. And you want that result to be the texture now. You go down here to the lower left. You pick viewer node. A viewer node is what the compositing viewer box did. Just to confirm, we can zoom in and see it's really smooth. And then we're going to go image, save as. And that's going to write right over the texture file from before. I'll just pick RGB. Okay, so see that it's still got those spots there because it hasn't updated in the view yet, but we're going to make it do that. And so you go to the lower left and pick the texture file again. You're going to click reload and watch the spots go away. Yes, glad that worked. This tells Blender to, hey, we changed this file on you. Can you please update your view? All right, so this is the non-subdivided version, but now with a nice smooth lighting and shading, shadows, all that stuff going on. We're gonna save this. One thing is, remember I had two materials, one for the spear and one for the body. I'm just gonna get rid of the spear material, so to the right here, and just knock it out, and it'll figure that there's only one material there, so that should be the material to use for everything now. That'll just reduce draw calls, also important for VR. Okay, so that's all the hard stuff completed. Now we just export it, just save it as a GLTF file. Remember, export settings include the selected objects, so you're not exporting everything that's there. Transform is good. Geometry, UVs and normals are important. Don't check vertex colors. If it's checked, that'll override all the work we just did. Materials export. Animation as uncheck everything just to be sure, because I'm sure I don't want those. It's going to save it over an earlier attempt. And that is it. We'll see how large the file is. It came out as 1.62 megabytes. So yeah, it's lower poly, but with a nice texture that's only 1024 by 1024. It gives a nice smooth effects that you can go right in there and have a good look at. And just for the record, it's 5,000 faces, 9,800 triangles for all of this. All right, thanks for watching. Hope this helped, and have a good day. See ya.